You know what really makes us mad? Is wasting money on CDs with only one or two good songs.
Yeah. Tell them about punk.
Hello everyone and welcome to punklottopod, the game where no one wins. I'm your co-host Justin Hensley.
I'm your other co-host Dylan Hensley.
And this is the show where, using a number generator and the Rate Your Music punk charts, we pick one year, an album, and EP at random to discuss. I didn't write that down, and you can tell because I stumbled all over it. We've done 30 of these and I can't remember the intro every time.
We just need our version of like a chalkboard gag at the beginning of the episode. Just something funny to play at the beginning.
Yeah. So today we're actually joined by a special guest.
Hello.
I'm Johnny Cash.
Yes. So say who you are, what you do.
My name's Grant McCracken. I run a record label called Bitter Melody Records out of North Carolina.
Yeah. And we've known you for
Long time, since before the label. So.
Yeah, 10, 15 years, I guess.
Label's 9 years old this year, so.
Yeah. So I remember when you started it.
Yeah.
So I remember you were like, should I start a record label? Because this one record I really like was never pressed. And I was like, yeah, sure.
Sure.
I don't know, this bubble might pop.
It hasn't popped yet, right? It probably has.
I don't know. They're still making it. They're still making a lot of it.
Did you look at the record store day list?
No,
It's
I didn't.
Terrible.
I'm kind of over it.
Yeah. What's the best thing that's coming out? Like a live Ramones concert? It's like they do one of those every year now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're almost
But really, I don't buy many records at all anymore. There's a few each year, but you know I'm to the point where I've got so much stuff. I don't have the places to put it, so I try to buy what I see is like crucial, and then I skip some stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely don't buy every single thing I'm remotely interested in. And most of the records I buy used, so even that I've kind of slowed down because I'm, kind of in the same position as far as my record shelf is pretty full.
Yeah. Should we just go ahead and jump into 2003? Because I feel like we'll be able to talk about the albums for a while.
Yeah.
A big year. I mean,
Yeah. So
huge records for a lot of different categories.
So, for this episode, we got the year 2003, and as always, we like to look at the Rate Your Music punk charts, and see what came out that year, and check out the trends. And right off the bat, there's a really weird one that's number one. It's Off Minor, The Heat Death of the Universe.
I don't think
How did that happen?
I've listened to Off Minor, and
yeah.
I don't think I've even listened to that record.
I haven't either.
I don't think I have either. I definitely have some records. From what I remember, it's just discordant type hardcore.
It's like kind of screamo-y, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think they were in that Level Plane type family thing. I think they had records on Level Plane even. I could be wrong about that.
Well, it was members of Hot Cross, I think. And
weird. Well, speaking of Hot Cross, the Cryonics came out this year by them, and it's on this page somewhere down here in the 40s.
Like
number
26.
2. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I didn't scroll. This is screamo in 2003 was pretty cool, I guess. There's an Envy record.
Well, it hadn't crossed over into the full-on mainstream version of screamo yet. So you still have a lot of those bands that people started calling scrams.
I mean, there's some great records this year. Good.
Yeah, we're scrolling through the chart right now, and there's just so much good stuff. Well, let's just go down it. Let's skip the shitty ones, like Streetlight Manifesto and brand New. That Lawrence Arms record's good, right? Is that the last good Lawrence Arms record? Greatest Story Ever Told?
I didn't listen to that one a lot.
No.
I don't know.
It's not... What's on that one? Anything?
I don't know. I have it, but
Just move
I can't
past
tell you a song on it. Yeah.
Just move past it. Yeah, I don't know. That's a fat record. Thrice, The Artist in the Ambulance, which is the only good Thrice album.
It was a huge record. I had lots of friends into Thrice. I never got into Thrice.
I have that one on CD, I think, and
I liked that album.
yeah.
Yeah, it is
I don't remember
the
much
only one
about
I
it.
listened to though. Like anything else that came after was too butt rocky. It was a little too alt.
Vishu.
Yeah.
Number 11 is Bear vs. Shark. Right Now You're in the Best of Hands, which is the best Bear vs. Shark album. It's nice to see that that's pretty highly rated, because I always feel like nobody really talks about them.
Well, I know people were really excited about the reunion, so that could have jumped up a few places just because of that. But yeah, Bear vs. Shark was a band that I put off forever. I didn't listen to when they were around because I always saw them they were like an Equal Vision band. Terrorhawk came out on Equal Vision, and it was always advertised with 30 Seconds to Mars and
Yeah.
other stuff I wasn't interested in. So
Yeah.
Cursive, The Ugly Organ.
Yeah.
I mean, I loved that record when it came out.
Man, I don't like Cursive.
That record is the only record that I really remember listening to that record a lot in 2003, 2004.
I
don't know.
I went and saw that
I must have had
reunion.
some sort of connection to it. I didn't. I don't think I did. I didn't go to it, did I?
No, I went with our buddy Sean, and he was excited to see Ugly Organ
'Cause
live.
When I revisited it, it didn't have that same connection to me. I think at that time I was like, I don't know. I definitely had come out of a long-term relationship, and I don't know. I think I had some sort of connection with that record. So
What is the Ugly Organ?
Uh-oh.
Is it the penis?
I don't know.
Number 14 on here is Against Me's As the Eternal Cowboy. Is that the first kind of blow-up record?
Yeah, I think that was the first Fat record.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, and by then I was, I got into them with the 7 inches. I mean, they had hype right off the bat with those first demos and 7 inches. So I definitely remember this was one that I pre-ordered and I got it right away when it came out that year. So it was a huge one for me. I probably went and saw them as many times as they came through that year.
Yeah. Man, this is a really good year. There's Shai Hulud, That Within Blood, Ill-Tempered. That's what, second? Third?
third album.
Third album? Can't think of specifically what's on that one, but I like Shai Hulud a lot.
If I Sing the Sorrow.
Yeah, that was a big deal.
Yeah, I didn't care so much, but it was a big deal. It
Yeah.
still is to
Yeah.
Right.
Thursday or all the time.
Yeah. Blood Brothers, Poison the Well.
Which I think Blood Brothers, they might have toured with Against Me that year.
That's a weird show.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but I remember seeing Blood Brothers because they were with somebody I was seeing that year.
Yeah.
From Ashes Rise, Nightmare, that was a big one.
Yeah. Crust Punk, Rise Against, Revolutions Per Minute. God, look at this. Every Time I Die, Hot Damn, Between the Buried and Me, Silent Circus.
I love that record.
Yeah.
When it came out, I still love that record.
Yeah.
And my favorite Integrity record.
Yeah, To Die For. Cursed's first album. That's definitely a retroactive scoring, because I don't think when they were around anybody gave a shit about them.
Over Beloved, I wouldn't think so.
No.
Yeah.
That would,
But that Beloved record, yeah. That was
Yeah,
a big
feel
one.
you're on.
Weirdly British Sea Power on here. Okay.
Yeah.
I like them a lot, but I wouldn't call them a punk band. The Bled. Remember when the Bled were huge and everybody loved them?
Yeah.
What do we get on the second
yes.
page? We start to see there's some folk punk. There's some Defiance, Ohio on here, and
How far down was Most Precious Blood?
We don't name the albums until I'm editing that out. Jesus Christ.
Jeez.
Act like you don't even listen to this show.
well, there's I'm surprised this isn't higher. There's that Give Up the Ghost record.
Where'd you
Yeah,
see that?
American Nightmare.
It's on 57. That's number 57 on the second page.
You passed Boy Sets Fire. Tomorrow Came Today.
Yeah.
Isn't
Yeah, that was a major label one.
that was the Wind Up record, right?
Yeah.
Wind Up. I remember seeing that in Walmart.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. I think I was with a friend who bought it at Walmart.
None More Black. File Under Black.
There was a Blink-182 record in 2003.
Yeah, the self-titled.
Yeah.
God,
what was
whoa.
the hit off of that one?
Let's see, that one had Feeling This, and I think it had that song with Robert Smith, and...
Yeah, Feeling This. I don't know the other ones. Down? Is that a cover 311?
No, fortunately.
I Miss You. Yeah, that's the one with Robert Smith. Yeah.
It was notably, like, it was the first of those, like, down-tempo Blink-182 songs.
Yeah. God, everybody's favorite, Less Than Jake. Oh, look! There's a great record.
Yeah.
Alkaline Trio's Good Morning is number 69.
It should be much higher than that.
It should.
Yeah, we passed a lot of, like, terrible records that were... Alkaline Trio, Good Morning. That was another one. That was a big one in 2003. I mean, I remember... That was one of the first ones I remember, like, leaks early. Like, the demos from Good Morning leaked. And, like, Matt's voice was just shot on those demos. And even on Good Morning, the album, like, his vocals were trash. I mean, I love the sound of it. If it's me, like, it just added to it for me. I mean, I love that album.
Yeah, I was gonna ask. I wanted to talk about what we were all listening to in 2003, and so I went through and looked at some like possible releases. For me, I was transitioning out of listening to nu metal and into more punk stuff. So like I was getting into MXPX because that one, what's it called? Before Everything and After. I think that's what it's called. It's the one where it's Mike Herrera and his like arms and belt buckle and
The crotch shot, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, this was a big transitional year for me because it was when I was finishing college and starting teaching, so like this was the year exiting sort of, carefree years and entering the, everyday life.
In the shit.
Yeah.
I was like 16 going on 17 that year, so...
I was 13. I was listening to Reliant K and like other Christian pop punk bands.
Yeah. It's funny, because you were like becoming an adult while we were...
2021.
We were still teenagers.
22, somewhere in there.
Yeah. Well, I guess we've talked long enough about the charts. Let's get into our album. We got...
Fall Out Boy, Take This to Your Grave.
Hell yeah.
Almost skipped over that.
The most important record on this list?
Why is it so far down? You'd think just retroactiveness would have...
I don't know. That Horse the Band record's way better.
Yeah.
I just saw the we would be remiss to not talk about the early 2000s Bush era punk.
Oh, right.
So we have War on Errorism by NoFX.
Yep, there it is. Also, Rancid's Indestructible. Did we have Rock Against Bush yet? Had that come out?
I would think so.
The first one?
It's definitely around War on Errorism time.
Yeah. Which is...
Jeez. I didn't even realize this. American Idiot didn't even come out until 2004.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, this is a pre-American Idiot world.
Come Back Kid, Turn It Around.
Yeah, number 105. Further Seems Forever, How to Start a Fire.
Well, yeah. What album are we talking about?
Alright, so we got number 221 on the albums chart, and it is Most Precious Blood, Our Lady of Annihilation.
Swing, let's go!
it should be much higher than that.
Right. 221 seems low.
Well, yeah.
So
there's an anti-flag, the Terror State, higher than that. So.
Yeah. So the reason why we wanted to have Grant on is because he actually has a connection to Most Precious Blood. So you actually put out one of their records.
Yeah. Well, I didn't. The initial release, of course, was on Trustkill because
Right.
they had Trustkill had the contract for all of Most Precious Blood's album. But in these time periods, vinyl wasn't that big of a seller, even for the one that we're talking about. But so I licensed Merciless, and that was the first release on the record. In fact, it was the reason that Bitter Melody started. Like I really didn't have much plans after that. I had that one record that I loved and I wanted on vinyl, so I had a few connections to people to talk to figure out how to press things on vinyl. So it all happened very fast too, because I kind of had the idea. I emailed Josh at Trustkill, and he was just like, "Yeah, send me $500 and I'll let you do this." And I was like, "Okay, I guess I'll ask the band to make sure that they are okay with me doing this." And then they were fine with it. So yeah, that's how the label started. Was to release a Most Precious Blood record.
Was that on the up and up? Did he still own Trustkill at that point?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, when I licensed that, Trustkill was still a thing, but very soon after, that's whenever, it was absorbed into, I forget which major label, Umbrella, Universal, maybe. And so now all those Trustkill releases are, tied up in that umbrella.
So you wouldn't be able to repress that if you wanted.
Well, it depends on the contract specifically with each release. That record is, I don't know, it's contractually, they have ownership now, so it can be repressed, yeah.
Oh, the band has got the ownership back. Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Let's run through some basics on the album real quick. It was released on Trustkill Records and pressed on vinyl by Death Wish. The personnel on this album is Rob Fusco on vocals, Justin Brennan on guitar Rose, Rachel Rose on guitar, Matt Miller on bass, and Sean McCann on drums. And the album was produced by Dean Baltulonis. Is that how you say that?
I think so. I could be wrong. I've only ever seen it. I've had communications with him in email, but I've never actually had to pronounce his last name. But in my head, that's about what I said. I just said it phonetically. It's a hard one.
And he produced albums by American Nightmare, Hope Conspiracy, Sick of It All. And speaking of Sick of It All, the vocalist of that band, who I'm blanking on his name because I didn't write it down.
Lou Kohler?
Yeah. He does guest vocals on this album.
Yeah, and I think, they obviously had that New York connection too, and I think Lou or somebody else had, maybe it was Agnostic Front people that kind of helped produce that last Indecision record before they became Most Precious Blood.
Yeah. Let's see. This is Rob's first album with Most Precious Blood. He was in One King Down before, and the super famous Fires and Floods.
Yeah. Another record that I released that I ended up probably giving away way more of those records than I sold.
That record is really good though, and super underrated because nobody talked about it really.
And it helped if they played a show.
Yeah, that's
after
true.
It came out.
They never played a show. And of course, Justin and Rachel were both in Indecision. Yeah,
the first Most Precious Blood album had the original singer of Indecision, Tom Sheehan, and I loved hearing him back, because he wasn't even there through the tenure of Indecision. They finished up with Artie Philly from Millhouse, so as a fan of both of those bands, like it was something you were already kind of used to. So I don't feel like I was especially like heartbroken, I guess, that Tom wasn't going to be on this second one. I love the Nothing in Vain, the first Most Precious Blood with him, but I was a fan of Rob from One King Down, so I was kind of excited to hear what he was going to do with it.
I mean, to be honest, I went back and listened to a little bit of Nothing in Vain, and I think I prefer Rob's vocals over Tom's.
Yeah,
they're really different. They're completely different styles.
Yeah. And the same, there's same with Artie versus Tom and Indecision.
Dylan, what did you think of the album?
I liked it a lot. I mean, there are moments on it that maybe production-wise didn't age well.
Yeah. I wanted to mention that. I feel like I've noticed this. A lot of albums from the early 2000s, like they sound really clean and they sound nice, but they're not loud enough, like overall.
Yeah, everything is really, the guitars are really like neatly mixed. Everything's really tight and compressed, and so especially when you add in like the clean singing parts, it sounds a little weird for a hardcore.
But I did want to say,
a hardcore record, especially of this style, as far as like the writing goes, it sounds a little odd, but.
Yeah, I like the clean singing on these. You know, clean singing on hardcore records is not something I'm always a fan of. I feel like, you know, Indecision and Most Precious Blood, like, their influences, I think, more, I mean, obviously, like, early hardcore and things were their big influences, but they were all huge, like, fans of, like, 80s stuff, like goth stuff, The Cure, Susie and the Banshees, Sisters of Mercy. Like, this album even, one of their albums kind of starts with a Sisters of Mercy sample.
Yeah.
And, you know, so those, I mean, they've done Cure covers. They've done several covers of Susie and the Banshees cover. So I feel like their clean singing kind of takes more influence in that than, say, like, the hardcore records at that time that were, you know, just taken from pop punk and trying to do the pop punk. These definitely aren't pop punk clean singing.
No. Yeah, it definitely leans in a more goth direction.
Yeah. I mean, I love the clean singing on it too, because the song "Your Picture Hung Itself" was probably my favorite on the album.
But I fucking went through the things you love, they will destroy you. When the seasons change, my scars burn under the arm I'll never learn. The words of you but sex to say, of more life today, they will replay. I cease to resist your sweet lips. I cease to resist your obstinate kiss. I cease to resist your sweet lips. I cease to resist your obstinate kiss. More time passes by, the more I realize you and I were just a lie. More time passes by, the more I realize you and I were just a lie. So many years will remain, but we turn to hope takes to doubt. That became bitterness, which to this day turned me inside out. The words of you but sex to say, forever more life is a day, they will replay. I cease to resist your sweet lips. I cease to resist your obstinate kiss.
I like just about
Is that
everything.
the More Time Passes By?
Yeah, that one.
I
Yeah.
mean, you know, and I feel like I love this record. Like, you know, I listen to these records often. You know, I'm a fan of these, so I'm obviously kind of a biased opinion on this record. But, you know, it's been a couple years since I really sat down and listened to it like I did for this podcast. But, yeah, I mean, I think overall it's a anthemic album. I think Rob, like, brings it as a vocalist. Like, it's probably probably my favorite Rob on vocals album. It's short. It's like 25, 27 minutes long.
It's like 26 and some change.
You know, there's no filler on it. It's just kind of, I mean, it's short. It's 11 songs, and they just kind of flow right through. It's over, like, before you realize you really put it on. But
right.
I feel like even if you never listen to this, after one listen, like, the next time you hear it, you're going to know some part of that song.
Yeah.
Like, I remember...
Oh, yeah, there were definitely moments on this album where, like, the second time, you know, through a part, I was... You know, I knew the words, you know, and was kind of hooked on it. So it's a solid record. Got some really great songs.
It's great riffs.
Yeah,
it's not the type of metalcore that you really hear that often, especially out of this era. But I don't know if like the stereotypical traditional metalcore like breakdowns hadn't become a thing quite yet. Like they were just starting to show up on records.
Yeah.
And this one doesn't... It has some breakdowns in it, but it's not, like, the ridiculous, like...
No. I mean, this was still, like, chugga-chugga.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
they had chugga-chugga breakdowns, and it was still, you know, dancey, but it wasn't, like, specifically for the breakdown, you know?
Yeah, they have a little more legitimacy, I guess, in terms of like 90s hardcore credibility coming
Yeah.
from Indecision, and yeah.
They aren't so much as influenced by like Swedish death metal type either. It's more
Yeah, the riffs aren't
thrashy, I
the
guess.
riffs are kind of the only place where you get the metal influence, and even then it seems more from thrash than like super melodic, at the gates death metal, which that works great when it's like Darkest Hour. But maybe not.
I'm trying to think. I can't remember the specific tour packages, but with their Trustkill years, well, I mean, they were all Trustkill years, but like when they were actively touring, they had big packages, and a lot of times like kind of mixed bills with like metal and hardcore. I remember probably around this era seeing them with Norma Jean.
That would make sense, because Bless the Martyr came out in 2003.
Yeah.
That is a pretty funny juxtaposition, though.
Yeah.
Norma Jean.
The specific show I'm thinking of at Ziggy's, their guitar player and Norma Jean, their amp was shot, so they had to use Most Precious Blood, which had spray painted on it. Think, don't pray. Which was funny
because that would have been Norma Jean at their most Jesus, like their most Christian, because that would have been Josh Scoggin.
Was he way more? Yeah, I guess he was a little bit more.
He was a little more charismatic Christian,
evangelical than Corey would later be. Because I remember, because a lot of other members of the band would leave Norma Jean because they weren't Christian enough anymore.
Yeah,
but as much as Indecision and Most Precious Blood like deal with religion and maybe the repercussions of religion, they were never like a thuggish kind of band, and they were never like overly militant, like they had long things, talking about, we got to have these conversations, we got, hardcore as a community, they were all about like, talking about things and talking about issues and being civil, and years and years of going to their shows, I never got any of those other kind of vibes.
Yeah. Didn't this album had some controversy, right?
Yeah. This was, Indecision didn't really get the, press attention that Most Precious Blood got, with Trustkill. Because, Trustkill at that time was huge. Like, they were in Best Buys, they were in media plays, they were in all those places and really pushing hard. And there was a lot of money in like, hardcore in those early 2000 days.
Before Victory ruined it for everybody.
So Indecision probably could have run into those same type controversies had, like, there been more press attention. But yeah, right off the bat with Most Precious Blood, I don't remember much about If Nothing in Vain had much controversy with it. It's got sort of a guy in the bathtub who's committed suicide, and that album dealt with like a lot of those issues a lot. But yeah, this was sort of in the wake of 9/11. This came out in 2003, but it was their first record since 9/11, and so certainly like when they were writing that, like that was definitely fresh in their minds, and so. The album cover has the Virgin Mary kind of strapped with a suicide vest, and it was just, a statement about religious extremism and all its...
and in a post 9/11 world, it was like making a statement, almost comparing...
because, religious extremism, it comes to a head with 9/11 in America. It's the biggest attack, and it's a religious motivated attack. But at the same time, you've got other, terrorist groups happening, people bombing abortion clinics and things like that. Like, it was
and that's the impression I get from that album artwork. I think they were trying to say, look, it wasn't just, Muslim extremists. We also, in the United States, have Christian extremists and Catholic.
And the whole thing was just a statement against religious extremism in general. Yeah. Like,
well, I think there's a really big statement of saying, like, the shoe could very easily be on the other foot, Christians could be doing this in other countries. You can historically very solidly make the case that Christians have done this around the world. That's why Christianity is where it is.
And, post 9/11 too, which would also add to the controversy. Like, post 9/11, things skewed more conservative, and it still is. It's been on an upward trend, but those were W years, and right at post 9/11. So seeing that album cover the distributors were, we don't want to carry this record. So it was like the first one that actually had to have, I think, a sticker over it that just kind of had, reviews and like for fans of type things just to cover up like the bottom half with the suicide vest.
Yeah. And they used like a PETA sticker, PETA 2 sticker?
Oh, maybe, yeah.
I think that's what it was.
And Merciless ran into the same thing. It had the rotting face on it. And so it had to have a sticker over it as well.
Yeah.
Which was, was a fun thing. But they had an alternate picture for Merciless. But one of the fun things about doing the vinyl was, I wasn't all that worried about, major stores carrying it. So we got to use all those original arts and make it nice and big.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Death Wish was the same way with this, because it features it prominently.
Yeah. Yeah, they didn't care. I'm sure Death Wish didn't care. Why didn't Death Wish do Merciless?
I don't know.
It's weird.
But, I don't know how well, because at this time, like, vinyl wasn't huge. The early 2000s, like, CDs were still massive. Like, lots and lots of money was being made off CDs. It was before the huge digital boom, and vinyl just wasn't big. I think a lot of those Trustkill records and all those bigger Ferret records and things of that time period, like, weren't pressed on vinyl.
Yeah.
And, now, a lot of those bands want those records pressed in with them being tied up in various things, a lot of them you can't.
Yeah, I mean that's Tooth and Nail Records ran into that same problem too. Sold off their back catalog, and then now that vinyl's popular and we want vinyl pressings of all these albums, now they can't do them unless they pay crazy out of pocket expenses.
Yeah.
There was another mini controversy later on with another band.
I was just looking at that. I
can't remember the year. Yeah, Thy Art Is Murder.
Yeah.
They had a
2015
album cover that was very, very similar in appearance, and so Most Precious Blood had called them out. I remember like a little Twitter feud back and forth around that time period.
I don't even remember Thy Art Is Murder. Did they ever cop to it and say that they were?
No,
they saw it.
I don't think. Yeah, well, no.
Though, did they even do the art themselves? I guess is the real.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. Like, they may have had a concept, but I have my doubts. Like the band itself, like because they were on some other bigger label, so I'm sure someone was hired. Maybe that designer.
Yeah.
Lifted from it.
Maybe. I mean, it's also not a so out of left field concept too that you couldn't come up with it independently.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember exactly how it looked. I remember
it's a man, right?
I thought it had
no, it's a woman.
Is it?
She's got a blue hood on, and she's opening her robe, and she's wearing a suicide vest, and the album's called Holy War.
Similar.
I mean, it's pretty blatant.
Yeah. I'm curious if
the photography though. While we're talking about like Merciless and Most Precious Blood, like not Merciless and Our Lady, Justin Barucki, like New York photographer, did the photograph for the cover of Our Lady, which I think is a beautiful photo. I mean, I love his photography.
Yeah, it looks really good. I
think he did everything except for that last Most Precious Blood record, Do Not Resuscitate. For some reason, he didn't do the artwork for it.
Yeah.
But by that time, he was blowing up too. I mean, he's huge. I mean, he photographs like... He's hired to photograph Springsteen and for Rolling Stone. I mean, he's a huge photographer, music photographer.
Yeah, I was actually, when I saw that, in my mind, I'd always thought of it more as an illustration, but I didn't realize it was, like, looking at it in a bigger picture, I didn't realize it was a photo.
Yeah.
It looks like a really good painting.
Right.
All of Most Precious Blood and Indecision records were photographs. Sometimes he did manipulations to them, like the two Indecision records, like he used a Polaroid transfer, a very physical process of taking those bunch of Polaroids and then putting chemicals to dissolve it, and that's why those pictures like have those like little creases and wrinkles in them.
Yeah.
I think these were pretty straightforward photographs.
Yeah. I mean, there's probably just some filters thrown on it and a little Photoshop manipulation, but probably not a whole lot.
This is my life! Down here with me! What a statement which I still make daily!
So usually whenever we're talking about albums, I like to look up reviews, like from people what they thought of the album. And on Amazon specifically, they seem to be super split on this record. So like half the people are like, this record rules, and then there's a bunch of other people who are like, this lead singer sucks. Like they hate his voice. But I found this review and it's pretty funny. It's on Amazon, and it says, years ago, there were albums of music to break your lease by. This one outdoes them all. It consists of the most god-awful din masquerading as music. I think I'll wait for their acoustic album.
I mean, how do these people even find those records? I mean, if you're not a fan of, like, heavy, aggressive music, why do you have this record? Why did you listen to it and review it?
So I was really curious about like why this guy hated this record so much. So I looked at his profile to see what else he had rated, and he rates everything from the air fryer he bought to books on Pyongyang, Bosch season 1,
which is a great show and a very underrated Amazon show. A lot of people have Amazon Prime. You should watch Bosch. It's it's one of my favorite shows. Like going, it's a great, like, you know, gritty noir detective show. Like, I love it.
He also rated not 1, not 2, but 3 different pairs of shoes as 1 star for being too small. It's like, I don't think the guy knows how big his feet are.
Yeah.
And then I found this other one on Amazon that says, man, oh man, sadly, I bought this album by accident because it was listed as a different band and I couldn't return it. But after listening to this, I think suicide is a good thing for the children who listen to this band.
Wow.
Man, it's funny. I miss my $13.
Edgelord there.
That dude had a bunch of other reviews and they were all edgelord, like
Yeah.
trying to be gross. Like the positive reviews he wrote were all like sexual and like, I came so hard listening to this. It's like, Jesus, this is Amazon. Everybody can see their review.
Ugh.
It's just weird. Like, people kind of hated it too. Do you remember a backlash back then?
No, not particularly.
Well, you mentioned you being a fan of Indecision and being used to the idea of the vocalist changing.
Yeah.
Like that reminded me that it seemed like for a while through the 2000s that wasn't a big deal. I mean, like it was a somewhat common thing to have bands' vocalists change.
I mean, I always feel like losing a vocal is a big deal. I mean, and stylistically, with Indecision and Most Precious Blood, like, they pick wildly different vocalists in terms of style. I already knew Rob from One King Down, but if you hadn't heard One King Down and weren't familiar with his vocal style, this would be a drastically different sound for you.
Yeah. This guy says the singer sounds like a dog.
Yeah, I am confused by the amount of people who come across this music and then feel like reviewing it like completely devoid of any context and familiarity with the genre.
Here's a weird review, and I don't even know what it's even trying to say. It says, wow, the lead singer sounds like is that rapey or rappy?
Ooh.
R-A-P-P-Y.
Rappy?
I hope he means rapping.
But I think he means rapey because then he says, how creepy. Other than that, it's a pretty solid CD, but they get a crappy rating because of the horrid vocals.
Weird.
I mean, I would read that as rappy.
I hope so. But then it says, how creepy immediately after.
Yeah, I don't know.
They gave it 2.5 stars. What else did it work like? Oh, they gave Hilary Duff 5 stars.
He's not wrong.
You gotta have balance. Balance in your life.
Weird. Also hasn't rated anything since 2004.
Yeah, I meant to ask Rob some more questions about, this recording specific. I know with later record, Rob has some specific things he likes to do. I'm trying to remember for which.
Did he hang upside down on this record?
I don't think it was this record, but yeah, there's definitely things like where he hung upside down. He would do some vocals down a hallway. He's very particular with how he records his vocals. Now, this I can't even remember who told me this. It probably was Fires and Floods people. I don't remember. It could have been Rob himself.
Well, is there anything else we want to say about this album?
I remember. I don't know how well vinyl did for it. I think Death Wish probably did maybe 2,000 copies.
Yeah, I definitely saw like one pressing had like 1,500 copies of whatever color.
But I also remember, there were some in the years before, vinyl, especially hardcore and punk vinyl, is pretty big right now. But in those mid 2000 years, there was some good vinyl sales. I remember specifically, probably a few years after this, maybe 2005, 2006, right before the next, I guess, boom. Mm. Death Wish had like a huge sale, and like I remember this specifically on vinyl. The common color was like $1 for LP, and I and a lot of other great Death Wish records that I bought like a boatload of, and I probably have 10 copies of this on vinyl because of that, because I was like, wow, and this was before I had a distro or anything. I don't know, the hoarding mentality. I did the same thing in those mid 2000 years with like Hot Topic, because like they would buy and sell the vinyl, and then like when it didn't sell in a couple months, they would clearance it out, and you could get great records for $2 or $3.
Yeah, it says they did 1,300 copies on clear.
Yeah,
which is crazy.
It is. That's a lot of copies. Of Merciless, we did a 500 first run, and then maybe a 400 or so of the second press. Based around, I think the reason we only did 400 is because I had that amount of covers left over. Because, this was my first record. Well, when I did Merciless, it was my first record, and so I was like, well, there's like a $100 difference between getting 500 LP jackets and 1,000 LP jackets, plus a 10% overrun, so really 1,100. And I was like, sure. So, my first record, I had 1,100 LP jackets show up. So fortunately, I did get to repress it. It was like 7-8 years later. So those jackets set in like a basement for those years, but I did get to use them.
I just you said the singer sounds like a dog, and I just found this interview with Rachel, and they had that Caninus grind project with like the
where they actually had recorded their dogs,
the rescued pit bulls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's one of those tracks is it's a bonus track on this album.
So I kept reading about the bonus tracks, and they said there's some really funny stuff at the end, but I listened to it on Spotify, and the bonus tracks aren't there.
Yeah, I didn't even think about revisiting that, but like from Indecision through Most Precious Blood, like that they had that, and I love that, because they would record everything in their van. They would record, sometimes there was like random crazy covers like Goober Peas on like one Indecision record, and so it would be like they would fill up the disc with just like banter of like random things they were talking about in the van, and there's some hilarious stuff on there.
And even if the album's 26 minutes and a CD could hold 80 minutes of material. So this is like, it's more recordings in the van than music.
I mean, you lose a little bit of that with in the digital era, because I love those when getting a CD and then you listen to the album, and then like if you heard like 10 seconds of silence after that last song, like, oh, there's gonna be something else here, and then of course you got to fast forward through like who knows how long, because they had up to 80 minutes to hide something in.
Well, there's also
most first, well, they were prankers too. Like they prank called a lot of fellow Trustkill bands. Some of them they were friends with, some of them not. There's some really funny stuff on those.
Isn't there one where they call like a pizza place?
Yeah.
And the guy answers the phone just kind of like, hello? What do you mean hello? Is that how you answer the phone on the business? You should just press all the outtake material at the end on vinyl.
With the vinyl, I did include it. It's got a bonus folder, like in the digital download. I definitely included all that from Merciless. And actually, on a new CD coming up, I did a callback to those kind of years. We have like a hidden track that's like 10 minutes of silence, and then you get like the bonus track after that.
Let's see. I guess we can talk. What did we rate them? Dylan, what would you rate this album?
Out of what?
Out of 5.
Okay.
Probably first impression 4.5. Maybe would give it a higher rating on further listens, but yeah, I really enjoyed it. I mean, I knew I would. I was already somewhat familiar with them. I've listened to Merciless at least a few times. I do have that copy of that on vinyl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got one of those rare pink ones.
You could probably get $100 or more for that.
Nice.
I've seen those sell for more than the test press, oddly enough.
Weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd give it like a 4.25. I mean, I probably with multiple listens would probably bump it up a little higher, but yeah, I really enjoyed the album. I liked it a lot. It's not the type of metalcore you really hear anymore, and you didn't hear a lot of back then either. What would you give it?
This is hard because sure, I'll give it a 5. I mean, you can take mine with a grain of salt because I am biased, and but I love this one. It's like I said, I think Rob shines on it. Like, it's probably out of the other 3 albums or 2 albums that he did vocals on. Like, I think this was my favorite like vocal performance of his on it. I think I can listen to this record and not want to skip anything. And this I have albums like I absolutely adore. Yeah. And I still will find a track or 2 that I might skip. But I can. I mean, the shortness of course helps too. Yeah. But I can sit down and listen to it straight through, and like I know parts of every one of these songs, so I wouldn't skip anything. So I love this record.
Yeah, Grant's a 5-star man.
Well, we want to move on to our EP.
Yeah, I guess we should. So our EP is number 135 on the Rate Your Music chart, and it is Wolves, Simulation.Transparency.Alienation. Through some basics real quick. Released September 15th, 2003 on Coalition Records, which is a record label from the Netherlands, who put out stuff by Das Oath, His Hero Is Gone, and Charles Bronson. It was... Personnel in the band is Tim Glowick on guitar and vocals, Brad Wallace on guitar, Eric Hopp on bass, and Andy Skelly on drums. It was recorded and mixed by Will Killingsworth of Orchid and Ampere and a million other bands. Brad in the band also played in Orchid, Transistor, Bucketful of Teeth, and Andy played in Last 40 Seconds, Ampere, and Kindling. And then Will Killingsworth even pressed it on Clear Plate Records as a 10-inch in 2011.
Clean plate.
Awful.
Yeah.
You said Clear Plate.
Oh, Clean Plate. It's a clean plate, clear plate. I think it is actually pressed on clear vinyl too.
I have it on black vinyl.
Yeah, Wolves they're so for me, Wolves are one of my favorite screamo bands. They're how would you describe this sound? It's like heavier, not as screechy as a lot of other screamo bands from this era can be. He's got like a real...
Yeah, I mean, it sounds more like Ampere than Orchid.
Yeah, definitely. It's in the vein of bands like Transistor, which makes sense. But like even like Yaphet Kotto or A Light in the Attic, like bassier, I guess. This is it's just 4 tracks. The first one's over 5 minutes long, and the last track is almost 8 minutes, which...
Yeah. I mean, it's almost as long as the album.
Yeah, it is. I don't know. Their full-length album is like one of my favorite screamo records ever. And this EP might be my least favorite release they did. They did some splits with Transistor and Ampere and...
Sinaloa.
Yeah, Sinaloa. And I think I even like those songs a little more than this EP.
Yeah. I would say it probably is their weakest release. Mm-hmm. But that being said, I really do love it.
Yeah. I like...
That last track just goes on a little too long, but yeah.
Yeah.
It does that spacey thing.
I found my attention span wandering on that first track and the last track. The last track especially. Like, my screamo, I like to be under 3 minutes for sure.
Which is tracks 2 and 3, right in the middle.
Which I have a lot of their stuff, but I can't say before, doing this, I really paid enough attention to them. I was kind of surprised, when you told me that this is one of your favorite screamo bands. Mm-hmm. I mean, a lot of these records though came out toward the end of like the time I was going to screamo shows, and I was into that world. Page 99, Majority Rule, and all those type bands. Like I was kind of, I guess, moving on. I wasn't listening to even the screamo albums I really liked at that point anymore. I just kind of, I guess, shifted gears. So
yeah, I can't remember how I got into them. I may have gotten into them through Transistor, and I got into them like way later anyway. Like I didn't get into screamo until like college, so everything I found was later. And I'm assuming it was just branching off from all of these other bands, and that's how I wound up. And they just always stood out to me for being different from a lot of the other screamo bands.
And all these screamo bands like branch. I mean, like they shared members like crazy. I mean, like there was connections all over the place.
Yeah.
With these,
Will Killingsworth produced half of them and was in the other half of the bands.
Yeah. I would say Wolves is one of the few bands though from that period of listening to screamo like constantly. Wolves is one of those few bands that stuck for me and is a band that I'm interested in revisiting from time to time. They're still a band that if I see one of their records that I don't have at a record store, I'll pick up, which I have a really bad habit of doing that with old screamo bands.
And you can find it now prolifically.
Yeah.
Because all those albums were pressed, and then at one time like those records were crazy traded and expensive, and I remember when I was I had tons of Page 99 records, and all those were like highly sought after. Now I mean some of that's popped back up with the reunions and everything, but there's a lot of those records. So you find them everywhere.
I have all of their records. The only thing I don't have is the Ampere split, because for that one's like still kind of expensive, like for $15, and I hate 7 inches because they're really my least favorite medium, and so I don't seek them out. And I'm like, I'm not gonna pay $15 for a 7-inch I'm literally never going to play. So.
If we're as unfamiliar as I was with some of this before I was listening to it to review this, I know I have the split with Sinaloa. I know I have the transistor split. Mm-hmm. So screamo ends up in your collection somehow.
Yeah,
you find yourself with it.
It's like, why do I have so many Kodan Armada 7 inches?
Did Kodan Armada?
I always loved what they did. They did, and they were memorable because of how crazy they were. That was one thing I really liked about screamo records, was like crazy over the top packaging. I remember I think it was the Kodan Armada Montcalm split, that was screen printed and on like felt, like bright pink felt, and they had one split with somebody it was packaged with all this crazy stuff. Like it was a thick envelope. It had like screen printed all over it with like, I feel like it was like a Mario Brother Koopa with like Jesus's head. I don't know.
That's one thing I loved about a lot of those like screamo releases is so many of them were just like, well, somebody assembled this in a basement. Like this is
glued on photographs.
Yeah, stamped covers. Like they're not even screen printed. Just a manila envelope folded in half. Yeah, I don't know. It has like this DIY. I don't know. I guess back then everything was kind of label centric in early 2000s for like heavy music.
Yeah,
it was weirdly.
I mean, screamo was very DIY.
Yeah,
it was like these real small labels and bands themselves like pressing and doing these just like crazy over the top packages, and
they were like the type of hard music that wasn't like mall friendly yet, or would be, because metalcore and hardcore and punk were, you could find that shit in like Best Buys everywhere. It wasn't hard to find, and I liked that this is what the underground hardcore punk scene was doing, was like screamo. And
they were doing, a lot of these bands were really political, Wolves especially.
We believe believe in self-criticism, and we believe that it's a major way in which revolution moves forward.
They were very much on.
Yeah. So this album has a lot of, or this EP has a lot of like samples of. It seems like of I'm not sure.
I couldn't figure out.
I couldn't look it up and figure out where those came from, but it was like political.
Yeah, like there was some like feminist
protest
moments
type speeches.
I have the LP and I went through the liner notes and I couldn't find anything about where these recordings came from. If they were just they could have just been like protests and like somebody recorded it.
Yeah,
I don't know. Where were they from? They were from Boston area. They were like split all over Massachusetts. But their website is still active and it's wolves.hampshire.edu. It's like they have an edu site that still works. Like, I wish this vocalist, Tim Glowick, had done anything else because I really like his style. It's this like really rough sounding hardcore vocal that the most common comparison I could think of is in like the Henry Rollins sort of like real rough early My War Rollins vocal style.
Just like and kind of like a horse yelling. There's
not
really a whole lot of grit.
Right. Yeah. And like 7 Years War, that's a really obscure reference to make, but that vocalist always reminded me a little of Henry Rollins, and this guy reminds me of that guy.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
7 Years War.
This
deep
this time capsule of a website. Just the last post is from 2004.
Yeah.
And it links to an interview that is probably not still on the internet. No.
Clean Plate's, their label, their website's still up too, and it's still in their store.
Yeah. Clean Plate just put out a couple things, like a Beta Brains reissue and Mother Country Motherfucker, Sarah Kirsch's last project. Yeah, Clean Plate, it's still kind of active. Yeah, I would like to know a little bit more about them.
They definitely had, I guess, a personal connection to this band,
right?
It meant something because 2011 was an odd time to be repressing like an early 2000s, like
on 10-inch.
Yeah,
it's weird because I don't think it was pressed on vinyl originally. It must have been just like
what they say about it is this record has stood the test of time and is just as intense now as it was 7 years ago. A brooding masterpiece given the deluxe treatment, including an 8-page full-color 7x7 booklet.
Yeah. So I guess it was just a project that they really liked, and Brad was in Ampere with Will, so I'm sure he was like, "Hey, press my old band's record." I don't know. I like it a lot. I like their LP a ton. Let's do a little bit of it to get ready for this episode. Yeah, they're. I feel like they're not well known. Nobody really talks about them. Nobody really talks about this kind of screamo anymore either.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, most of those bands never got really well known. I mean, besides a few figureheads that a lot of people know, and even I'm sure a lot of younger people like have no clue or understand, the relevance of Page 99, Majority Rule, Ampere, Orchid.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of really good bands though that did, that never got that attention.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there certainly were. I love when you go to like a band's old website and you see they were like, yeah, we've got this posthumous release coming out that's like a collection of all of our stuff, and it says hopefully it'll be out in a couple months via Clean Plate Records. It's like, nope, never happened. They never did it. Because why would you? That's obscure screamo band breaks up. Why would you repress it as a compilation?
Well, he should have just done that instead of the 10-inch.
Yeah, he could have fit it all on an LP, like all the singles. Like maybe it wouldn't fit the album, but
yeah,
I don't know why he didn't do that. That's funny.
No, only like the 10-inch.
Yeah, so what would you rate this, Dylan?
I want to give it probably about a 4.5 as well. Just for those moments that linger a little too long, but I love their basic sound. It really has stuck with me. 4.5.
Yeah, I'd give it. Yeah, I'd probably give it a 4.25, same as my Most Precious Blood. Yeah, the lingering goes on a little bit too much is what, at the end is what keeps it from rising above. But yeah, I still really like it a lot. I mean, I bought it just a couple years ago, so it stuck with me.
Yeah, I would say a 4. I don't have this wasn't one of those bands for me, so this is, for this podcast, was the first time I sat down to listen to this, but yeah, there's my attention span is still short, so I found my mind wandering and things in those longer moments that sort of drag out. Like I would have rather seen this probably should have been a 7-inch, trim those up and fit them on nice and tight on a 7-inch would be much more solid for me.
Yeah. All right, so next week we are covering the year 2017, and we got number 216 on the Rate Your Music album charts, and we're doing Hot Water Music's Light It Up. Mm-hmm. And our EP is number 75, and it's Balancing Composure's Slow Heart, which was a Record Store Day release, so kind of obscure. It's on Spotify, though. Before we do our plugs, what do you got coming up, Grant?
Well, by the time this comes out, I should have, we got some things going up like this week, but it'll be a little bit before this is out there. So by the time this is reaching people, we should have, hopefully sending out even, a new EP from a brand new band called Glass Killing Floor, which is a vegan metalcore project with members of like Wrist Meat Razor, who are blowing up, and Inclination, who are also blowing up. Yeah. So, I like this project a lot. So yeah, that one will be up on CD and tape. We've got a 7-inch, which should be about shipping by the time this is out, from Extricate, called Unforgiving Years, which we're doing on 7-inch vinyl, and they were formerly forewarned. We're in one of those situations with people hassling to change the name, but and then another EP from Cauterize. It's a new vegan straight edge band from Portland. Yeah, and then who knows? By then, hopefully, I will probably, because I've got too much going on right now, and it's gotten to be overwhelming. I try to space things out a little bit more than this, but that's all the new stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Grant, Bitter Melody Records has a ton of other stuff, too. Like, you've put out stuff by Discourse, and
we did the first two Discourse releases.
Yeah. You did some Wrist Meat Razor early releases. What else? One of my favorites, Old Flings. It's an older record at this point, but it's still one of my all-time favorite records. And
Most Precious Blood, Merciless, obviously we talked about, and
Indecision.
We remastered, and for me, that's always going to be one of the crowning achievements of the label. Because that was. I got lyrics from that record tattooed on me. It was my first tattoo as a fresh 18, so it's going to be hard to top that one in my...
Do you have any social medias you want people to follow?
Sure. Bitter Melody Records is on, Facebook, which seems like no one is on Facebook anymore following pages. I still post there, but, sure, we have a Twitter. We have Instagram, where we try to post pictures of stuff. It seems like most people are... Instagram is where I hit first, and Twitter, and then
Yeah, we'll post links to all that stuff too. Cool. Well, we have Instagram as well. We're Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. We're at punklottopod. We have a website, punklottopod.simplecast.fm, and our email is punklottopod@gmail.com. Please email us if you want a free button. We'll ship it anywhere in the world if you respond to it and let us know you want one. Please continue to rate, review, and subscribe to us on iTunes. That helps people find us a little more. And yeah, I guess that'll do it. Anything else?
Nope.
it was great being here.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Now we're going to go get some dinner. Bye, guys.